Ex cheats on me before I take her on a week-long Portugal trip. The only reason I am posting this now is because I'm just getting over her. Year and a half later, this story starts off with butterflies and ends with demons. We went to Portugal for my oldest brother's wedding. So my ex 27 female, we will call her Karen, and myself 25 male, met through some friends and hit it off immediately. We then spent every day together for the next 6 months, which I think was part of the problem. The first few months were wonderful, rainbows and butterflies. She was the first one to use the L word, but it took me a couple weeks after to say it back. One night, probably 3 months into the relationship. We go over to my parents' house to eat with my family and some friends. Everything is going so well up until we leave. I tell her bye, think she was going back to her dad's house because she still lived there, and she comes up to me and says, the honeymoon phase is now over. At that point I'm shocked and confused by this statement. 1, I'm not even sure what that means, and 2, why does it ever have to be over? I ask her what that meant, and she responds with, oh, it means we will have fights now and not everything will be happy-go-lucky. Now I'm just frustrated and should have seen the red flag. But I was blinded by love. I ignore this statement and forget about it, but things do get worse. The next couple months are not terrible, but way different than the beginning. Stuff that never bothered her before now bothers her. For example, I was planning on building a tiny home, 800 square feet, before she ever came into the picture. And now she is complaining how small it will be, and it's not the way she likes it. I am not kidding, she got pissed at me for not planning a house how she wanted it. This is like for months into the relationship. Another red flag, but again blinded by love. Things continue like this up until the Portugal trip. I tried to save a relationship and do things like take her to the islands for a picnic or get her flowers and stuff like that, but nothing seemed to help. About a week before the Portugal trip, I decide to take her to one of our local islands on the coast for a picnic, booze cruise. We are packing picnic stuff for the boat, and out of nowhere, she starts screaming at me because I took a glance at the TV. While she was talking, college football was on. I am still paying attention to her, but just took a glance over. We get in a huge argument and almost don't make it to the island. But I apologize and we end up going out on the water. This is where I deeply regret my decision. We set up the picnic and she starts to cry. I try to comfort her, but she is pushing me away. I asked what's wrong. She answers with, I am starting to have feelings for my ex. Man, if I had left her on that island, stranded, it would have been the best decision I have ever made in life. But the dumbass I am, I tried to talk through it, lots of emotion, crying, screaming, and whatever else to come to the conclusion that we will be okay lol. We get home and discuss our plans for Portugal, and I say the ticket is yours, it has your name on it, you have never been out of the country, so I want you to go. So the next week we fly out to Portugal for my brother's wedding. Portugal is an effing dream. I will tell you what, the first day we went on an 80-foot catamaran to booze cruise around. For the rehearsal dinner, we are at a top 5 boutique hotel in the world. Whatever the hell that means, but it was superb. Then the wedding is at an abandoned palace. Long story short, this trip was epic. Apart from Karen, so everyone at the wedding ate a 4-course meal together. And at about the 3rd course things went south. Everyone is having a blast and emotions are flying around. My sister-in-law, different one than the bride at the time, have 3 older brothers, gets super emotional about her father. That might not be at her wedding, since he was a little older. My sis-in-law then asks Karen if she could have some of her wine and go to the bathroom. Karen says something extremely rude, although I think she was kidding, but something like, no, get your own. My sis-in-law thankfully did not cause a scene there, but ran to the basement. 5 or so minutes go by and Karen says to me, I probably should apologize, and I am like, yeah, get your ass down there. I thought everything would be okay, but little did I know this would ruin my brother's wedding for me. Close to 30 minutes go by, and I have no idea what is going on, so I decided to check it out. I passed my sis-in-law on the way down and asked where Karen is, and she said she was probably still in the basement. I go down and she is bawling her eyes out. I try to comfort her and be there and have empathy, but of course nothing works. This goes on for at least an hour. Missing my brother's first dance and cake cutting. I am frustrated at this point and finally get her to go up to the dance floor to have some fun. The rest of the night was great and a lot of fun. The next day things were a little awkward for Karen. She was shut off by my sister-in-laws and my family was not too friendly either. But it is our last day. Our travel home just continues the Karen saga. We get extremely delayed and end up staying the night in the airport. Karen wants to critique everything I do, including what food I get or where I sleep and stuff like that. For 36 bloody hours I had to deal with this. The way there our travel time was 16 hours, but we eventually got home. We got home and I think everything is fine. She asks me to go get lunch and I'm like, cool, yeah, let's do it. We get sushi. I paid for 99% of everything and we go back to the car. She then says to me, I cannot do this anymore. I have to break up with you. I am at lost for words. The only thing I can say is get out of my car and find your way home. She continues to try to contact me for weeks and of course I succumb, but eventually I cut off contact and move away. I was actually planning on moving for the longest time before she came around, but she prolonged my move. About 4 months go by without any contact until I find out from her now boyfriend that she was cheating on me prior to the Portugal trip. I lose my mind and go into a depression I have never felt before. It sucked for a while there, but I eventually grew the balls to confront her about it. Of course she denies it, but she will never grow and own the shit she has done. I used to blame myself for all our fights, problems, but now looking back at it, I know the real reason, which eventually gave me the closure I needed. Oh yeah, also forget to mention at the beginning of the relationship, Karen literally says to me crying, "Don't ever leave me for a prettier girl." I find that quite ironic and funny.